Hey everyone, it's Jack here, TalkNorwichCity. Welcome back to another video. It's been a really difficult couple of weeks for Norwich City. Fixture list has been tough and we've not navigated it as well as we might have liked, or maybe it's come out as exactly as expected. Defeats to Brighton in the FA Cup, to Sheffield United and then to Leeds United. The last two competitive championship games have mustered up 0 shots on target. All of that being said, we saw this run of games coming up as an opportunity for Norwich City. There's some favourable home fixtures in there and there's some winnable away games as well. And it all started with a game at Carrow Road against Swansea City. Swansea have just come off the back of a pretty convincing defeat in the South Wales derby to Cardiff. They are a team kind of meandering around mid-table at the moment. We, of course, lost them earlier on in the season away from home, but this felt like a game that Norwich needed to win, and win they did. 5-1, which is a kind of a remarkable scoreline to be talking about, considering the context of the performance. It was 0-0 after 44 minutes, and Norwich were quite poor for the first half. It was very passive, it was quite pedestrian. Both teams had half chances, but after 44 minutes in the game, you wouldn't have said that either team kind of deserved to be ahead. Norwich looked in relative control without causing too much danger, and Swansea looked like they were almost content to try and find a point in this game. It was Sargent who was first on the score sheet. Sargent started. It was clear from Johannes's press conference earlier on in the week that Josh Sargent would be starting this match. He, of course, was on the bench against Brighton and came on. He was on the bench against Sheffield United. He was on the bench against Leeds United. It's clear that he's still not fully match fit, but he is in a place where he is effective as a starter. And my goodness, was he effective. A couple of shots, a couple of goals for Josh Sargent. 2 really important goals. He's just so clinical. He's so clinical at this level, and I think you notice that even more so when you've been without him for a little while. Whether it's Ante or Marcondes or whoever it's been through the middle, all of them have been okay, but they're just not on Josh Sargent level. His finishing in the Championship is utterly superb. The first goal was well taken. It was a wonderful run from Arskell Schwartau. It was a nice pass from Marcondes. Sargent has time, but it's still not an easy finish, and he does so well. The second finish is as clinical as you like from our number 9, and it's going to be so important for ourselves to keep him fit from now until the end of the season. I'm a little bit surprised that they haven't dipped in the market for another striker, especially considering the fact that Ashley Barnes is now gone, and I think he was kind of the cover for Josh Sargent. I know that Ante can play through the middle, but I'm not sure if that's his best position. So it's there's a lot relying on Josh staying fit this season, so we shall see. The front three was interesting actually. It was Sargent, Hernandez, and Dobbin. Dobbin got on the score sheet. I thought he was very effective today. Look, he's far from the finished product. There was a reason that Everton spent £10 million on him a couple of seasons ago. There is intelligence, there is maturity within his game. I think it's clear to see that he's not played loads of football recently. There were a couple of heavy touches in there, but I think on the whole, he's a very effective player at Championship level. It was a really nicely taken goal. He gets in really good areas. He suits this team nicely, and I think he's a very good addition to bring in January. Onel was strangely off it. I mean, I've said it multiple times on the videos this season that I think he's far more effective off of the bench, and I think that's abundantly clear with the fact that we've brought in Mate Jurasec. It's abundantly clear with the fact that we've tried to start with Crnac and Forsen Amankwa and Marcondes on the right-hand side. I don't think that Johannes wants to be playing Onel on that right side. He just looked unfit today. I don't know if there was any underlying issues, but it was good that Ante came on. Ante scores. Ante should have scored twice. It was unfortunate he didn't get a second goal. It was Marcondes that kind of nicked it off the goal line for him. So he was effective off the bench. I want to say a special mention for Arskell Schwartau, who I think has been utterly magnificent this season. He's 18 years old, and I think you almost forget that with the maturity that he brings. And there was a lot of noise around the fact that Lucian Mojave started for Norwich today. He's a 19-year-old left back. Oscar Schwartau is younger than Mojave, and Schwartau is almost undroppable. Like, he's been incredibly dynamic, and he's versatile. He's played up front, he's played as a winger, he's played as a midfielder. He was so pivotal to the first goal today. I think he's very clever. He's got a good pass on him, he's got an engine on him, and I think if he can be treated well and he can be developed, which I think he will be under Johannes, I think Oscar Schwartau's got an incredibly exciting future on his hands. And when we talk about bits of recruitment that have worked, Oscar's certainly that. It was a strange game today. I mean, Swansea equalised after 62 minutes through, again, a fairly sloppy goal to concede, and thankfully Sargent puts us ahead about 30 seconds later. But it was one of those games where it felt more evenly balanced than 5-1, and yet also I don't feel like we've learnt a lot from this. I feel like we're in a position where Norwich can quite comfortably blow teams away at home. We've seen it with Hull, we've seen it with Watford, we've seen it with Plymouth. Like, sides that are there or thereabouts mid-table, maybe lower half mid-table, Watford being the exception, slightly higher than mid-table. Like, we're comfortable against those types of sides. It's when we go away to Leeds and Sheffield United and Burnley, that's when we really struggle. But Norwich have the capacity to just kind of shift through the gears really comfortably at home. They keep the ball well. They knock it around nicely. They have the quality in a Sargent or a Marcondes or a Crnac to find goals, and ultimately that will be the difference. And when you look at the run ahead for Norwich, it's Watford up next away from home, but then it's Derby at home, Preston at home, Hull away, Stoke at home, Blackburn away, Oxford at home, Sheffield Wednesday at home. Like, all of those home games, Norwich City, much like Swansea today, will be looking at and go, I think we can win those games. And if Norwich can win all of those home games, and I don't know, let's say we average 1.5 points a game away from home, then we will be in touching distance of the playoffs. It feels like we are constantly in between going, oh my goodness, like we're 2 points off of the playoffs. And then we come up against the Leeds or Sheffield United, and then we drop away a little bit. It feels like we're in that pack in between kind of 6th and about 9th or 10th. That type of side at the moment. I just look at us and go, if we can find a Nunez and a Jurisic, who knows what he's like, and a couple of others, and Anis Ben Slimane, then why shouldn't we be knocking on the doors of the playoffs? I think it's interesting being a Norwich fan this season, because you're constantly between the mindset of going, oh my goodness, I'm being too optimistic by saying I think we can get into the playoffs, and then being like, oh, I think we're actually a mid-table side. I'm finding it really difficult to get a kind of flavour of where Norwich are at this season. I watch us against the likes of Swansea and I think, oh my goodness, like, we are so much better than sides like this. And then going up against the Leeds and going, we are so far behind where they are. So it will be interesting to see. Look, we've got Nunez and Slimane and Jurisic and Fortuna Manqua to return in the kind of coming weeks. I would say on paper, like, that was actually quite a weak side from Norwich today, with Hernandez starting and Mojave starting and arguably Oscar Schwartau starting, although he's kind of making himself undroppable. There's players in there that would probably be expecting to start on the substitute bench and are starting. So get a couple more players back. Borja Sainz, of course, I've forgotten his name. Get him back in the fold, and who knows when this Norwich side can be. But really impressed with Dobbin, really impressed with Schwartau. Good to see Mojave starting. Josh Sargent, like, have we learnt anything there? I'm not too sure. Utterly sensational at this level, even when not fully fit. And blown away a Swansea side who are, kind of mid-pack, slightly below mid-pack in the table. So it's going to be a kind of an interesting couple of months, I think, for Norwich. We've got a very, very favourable run of fixtures ahead. If we can do something there, then who knows? It might be a late charge like we saw with David Wagner last season, but unlike David Wagner last season, it feels like we've got a bit more hope than we had last season. It felt almost inevitable that we would get into the playoffs last season and then ultimately come unstuck against better opposition. I'm not sure if that's the case this time around. I think there's more belief in Johannes. I don't think the league is as strong as it was last time round. So we can only hope, and we shall see where it goes from here. Let me know what you thought down in the comment section below. It was Norwich City 5, Swansea City 1. Thanks very much for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.